Good morning, Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Oh.
Thank you for listening on Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. When you're a young cherub and you go to Colorado College, you study physics, which is what David Malpass did. Joining us, the former president of the World Bank, iconic at Bear Stearns years ago. David Malpass darkens the door this morning.
Brightens the door.
Casey has yet to concede in Pennsylvania. Tuberville, the football coach, dragged you into the Senate. He said, we need Senate testimony from David Malpass on, global economics and all that. You're one of the few people I know that's actually been in the trenches in the United States Senate. Do you see with this new administration, David, with your affiliation with the Republicans, do you see a suddenness, rapid movement between the executive and the legislative branch, or will it be slower and more iterative?
Hi, Tom, and that's a great question and issue. Yeah, I think it'll be pretty fast because there really is a mandate from the country to bring change. Then,
how do you see a mandate? I've got Vice President Harris narrowing it down to 50-40. It's something like 238,000 votes in 3 swing states. I got a guy in the San Joaquin Valley right now, Republican, winning by under 300 votes. If the Democrats take west of Fresno, it's one more Democrat in the House. It's not a mandate, David.
I beg to differ. So it means all 7 of the swing states were won. And if you look
Agreed.
at all the demographics, in other words, if you parse it by age, if you parse it by skills,
right.
You get people wanting change. And so that means the Senate is going to let's come to your question. There's a turnover, a very important turnover of the majority leader, and the staff on all the committees turns over. Mm-hmm. And so there will be people whose lifeblood is not regulating. And so that means a big change in how the Senate operates. Of course, it's the deliberative body, and it'll take time to get some stuff done. But I'd imagine there's going to be a tax movement on the tax front very quickly, of course, on energy and on trade, where the system is broken. So you'll see all of that moving, month by month, pretty rapidly.
What do you think of some of the president's cabinet nominations to date? What have you kind of sensed?
Well, I think they're great, but what you see is him wanting change. And so that, to me, is the signal coming out of each area. Put strong people in that want change. Look at the energy pick. So Chris Wright, Burgum are really strong. Lee Zeldin, and these are the energy side that can make, if you think about how do you make America strong again, and this is peace through strength. Where do you get the strength? From production. How do you do that? You get the energy sector going so that you can build all the other things that go into an economy.
Yeah, but aren't we like the #1 energy power in the world now, bigger than Saudi Arabia? There's an oversupply. McGlone says a barrel of oil is going to $12 a barrel. I'm kidding.
Well, stranger, remember it went to $10 a barrel in the year 1999 and 2000 when the dollar was super strong, overly strong. So I don't know that we want it that low, but it would be good if it comes down. And the bigger thing is the U.S. could be doing so much more. You just named parts of the world that are plentifully supplied, but there are huge parts of the world that don't have enough energy. And think of the craziness that we've got because of the lack of pipelines. We've got the energy, the LNG goes through the Panama Canal. It's such a wasteful use of the water. Panama Canal is driven by free-flowing water that comes from rain, and you wash the ships down both sides of the canal, and you're doing it to get LNG to Asia from the east coast.
So what do you
want to
do? Build a harbor overlooking San Francisco Giants Stadium?
There needs to be some way to get energy onto the west coast of either the U.S. or Canada. They're building one into Mexico, but how does that really help the U.S. if you have to go down through Mexico to get your energy out of the hemisphere?
It's too much geography with David Malpass. Paul, save the conversation.
Speaking of down in that part of the world, the G20 is just finishing up down in Rio here. How do you think President-elect Trump views entities, organizations like the G20 and that try to think about things on a global basis. How do you think he anticipates engaging?
I don't know how he thinks about it, but it should be clear to everyone that the globalism isn't working. This is the giant conferences. Think of the literally tens of thousands of people. I've had to go to these conferences. We recently saw the one in Baku. Think of the absurdity of having the climate conference in Baku, Azerbaijan, which is the conduit for Russian oil coming under the sanctions out into the rest of the world. So you've got this, and literally it's 10,000 people from that are all trying to get government contracts. So it's a climate industrial complex, just like the military industrial complex that's so expensive. You need to have strong defense for the U.S., but you need to have it in a way that's competitive in the world.
David Malpass, with the former president of the World Bank, we're thrilled that he could join us this morning. We welcome all of you on your commute across the nation, and of course on YouTube, subscribe to Bloomberg Podcast. I have literally on the desk at home, Lighthizer, No Trade is Free. I'm going to read it cover to cover just to get an understanding of Lighthizer economics. You're at Colorado College lecturing EC 102, macroeconomics. David Malpass discussed the efficacy of tariffs.
The system is broken in the world. It was set up at a time before China was the #2 world power. You had a concept in the 60s and 70s that somehow there could be kumbaya, that everybody could come together
Everyone
and
will agree
form
with
a
that.
deal and everybody lower their tariffs.
Vice President Harris would agree with you.
And it's completely broken down because you have this giantly aggressive commercial power that's not playing by the rules on intellectual property, on their overcapacity of manufactured goods. So it's a taking away markets from the rest of the world.
Do we need tariffs that are gradual and marginal, or do we need the jump condition that the president-elect talks about, a magnitude of tariffs that we haven't seen in generations?
You need to get the world's attention that what they're doing is broken. I don't know if you saw, but President Xi was in South America last week, and he was making the case to all the other world leaders to go gradual. And so China is kind of bidding for time. They're saying, oh, this is going to, we're moving in your direction. And so whether the rest of the world buys that, and China often pays for it with contracts, with gifts that can be shared in families, and so how do you stop that and really get onto a new wavelength with China and with the rest of the world in fairness?
Should the U.S. approach to China be one of engagement or one of just trying to really step back from China? How do you think the approach should be?
I think there has. So for too many years now, China's been getting what it wants. I saw that in the world conferences. They really are winning on the soft power, and so you have to take that back because the U.S. has all the ability to do this. It just has been choosing not to do it. We've been trying to get peace through weakness, and so if you switch to peace through strength, China is going to change its side of the discussion as well. They're not. They follow very closely what's going on in the U.S. and will be responding to it. So then you've got to say, okay, we've got a bunch of problems. Here's our list of problems. You're producing too much steel with too much coal and claiming and then pushing climate agenda through the Paris Agreement that you're not complying with. We don't like that. Intellectual property, you're stealing. You've never let down on stealing the intellectual property.
David, I got one final question with great respect. Tom Nichols, The Death of Expertise, profound book. I interviewed him when it came out. We're trying to get Mr. Nichols on again to talk about it. This is an administration. David Malpass has the best English skills of anyone I've ever known on Wall Street. You and John Riding were prodigious in your economic output for Alan Schwartz at Bear Stearns. Your physics, Colorado College, you're the real deal on a conservative tone. Some of these people have zero expertise. What would you say to the president-elect right now if these people are pushed aside by Senate?
Well, I don't think that'll happen, but I think what the president can see is that he's clearly he's got a powerful path. That's taxes, energy, that's making
Why
America
is he
strong.
running then from expertise? Because there are conservatives like you that have their heads screwed on.
A problem is expertise often has meant you're inside the Beltway with their models. And so we really have to have an upheaval where you shake it up with people that have views from outside.
I got to make some news today. Have you been called by the president or by Susan? Are you going to serve within the Trump administration?
No news from
Come
me.
on, David.
No news.
Okay, David Malpass, thank you so much. Formerly with the World Bank and, of course, running within public office within New York State. For the Senate, I believe it was years ago. Did I do that okay? You had a pickup truck and everything, right?
Senator Gillibrand. I had my winner all around.
You survived. Okay.
It's a great state.
David Malpass, thank you.